And we're on to our next topic. And the topic is actually not as different to one that we've got on this series, which is female entrepreneurship. We are now lucky to have Isaac on our podcast, and we're going to deep dive into a little bit about what are we really doing as females today in this space. Are we doing it? Are we not? What's the statistics showing? And we have a great opportunity to really get to the guts of this and learn a little bit about ourselves, as well as take it to the next level of what we could be doing. And that's what I'm hoping, Isaac, you can bring to the table. So,
and we're really delighted as well, I think, to be here again at the River City Labs Female Startup Weekend, which is awesome. I think just to kind of see all the action going on behind us while we talk about this topic is brilliant. So Isaac, welcome to Splash of Colour. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So straight out of the gate, I am absolutely not a startup founder. I have incredible respect for startup founders and people who go out there and take that risk. I think I realized probably almost 10 years ago that wasn't actually my skill set. It wasn't it's a wanky term, but it wasn't my calling. It wasn't what, I really felt like I needed to be doing. But what I did notice that I had a passion for was supporting those people who were crazy and kind of being their right-hand person, their executor, the person who really kind of sees their vision and helps them deliver it and helps them execute it. So I've worked for startups. I've worked for universities, university programs that were supporting entrepreneurship. I've worked for some of the country's largest tech hubs. And now I am working for an accelerator investment fund, looking at supporting more companies in the later stage of their founder journey. And it's also an investment fund. What's really exciting about it is it's traditionally based out of the US, but has recently launched into Australia, Southeast Asia. And a big part of the reason why they launched into this region is they saw the rapid growth and the rapid development of our startup culture, of our innovation ecosystem. And it was attractive. And I think that's phenomenal to see.
Yes.
It's like awesome. We're now not just doing a very good job by our own standards. We're kind of getting the global attention.
Yeah.
And that's fun. That's a fun place to be at.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm a bit interested in a bit of your background. So obviously you're representing the investment firm accelerator program, working with businesses. In regards to working with female founders or female-led businesses, what have you observed, or what are you seeing right now that's going on in Australia, or in particular with the exposure that you have through your job?
Well, I think I have great exposure in my current role, but also in my previous role as general manager for Fish Burners. I think I was able to see, be exposed to what is going on in the ecosystem in the way of female-led startups.
Yes.
It's phenomenal. I think that some of our top companies, in my opinion, are led by female founders. You look at one of our most successful exports, Canva. You look at Fish Burners, and I look into the companies that are not just doing this for the sake of starting a startup. It's not I want to live the startup founder pizza life.
The t-shirt and jeans.
You look at the companies that are like, no, there's something wrong, or there's something missing, and I want to fix it. And I'm seeing a lot of those companies led by women.
And innovative tech.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Sortle.
Exactly.
That you're on the board, your advisory board for.
Exactly.
That's one of the most innovative technologies to come out of Brisbane. And that is about to kick off and go huge.
And that was co-founded by two incredible women who actually they met at a startup weekend. They met at the CEA Creative Tech Startup Weekend 2-3 years ago. And the level of, I suppose, commitment to the startup, commitment to the product, and also commitment to the purpose, that's something that I'm seeing more and more led by women. Purpose-driven companies and purpose-driven startups, in my experience, is led predominantly by women, which is awesome to see.
And I think that's a really interesting observation, because when I look, obviously I'm a little bit outside, I'm in the corporate world, but I am a founder myself. So I'm cheating on my corporate life and actually living the dream outside.
I love that phrase.
And I'm a researcher, so I love looking at the statistics. And what it has shown is the last 20 years, and this was a report that came out this year as well, in the last 20 years that the actual female-led businesses have only grown by 3%. Of which female-led startups, or not startups, female-led businesses, or I guess co-founders are only 34%. In Australia. So the stats aren't that good, but they actually, at least it's 34, not 4, which is the investment, global investment stats.
That's ridiculous.
Into women and their businesses. But I think what you touched on earlier is that there definitely is a culture movement going on, and definitely I've seen it in Brisbane, and it's growing more, and the conversations are growing larger. What do you think is the thing that is, you mentioned that the women leaders are the most successful that you've just observed. Is that's what you're seeing? You're starting to see that they're great leaders.
Yep.
What's driving that, or what's going on in the space, and what makes them different to their male counterparts?
Look, I think what's exciting is I'm not seeing a difference in women-led companies to their male counterparts, if that makes sense. Well, there's definitely, and it's by no means perfect, and I'm not like, we've got a very long way to go, but I think why they are becoming so successful is there is just attention that's being paid now. And I think that it was something that was, I even look, when I kind of really started building or helping to build the startup community here in Brisbane 5 years ago, there was nothing really tangible. So if you're a young female entrepreneur, or if you're a female businesswoman, there was very few things that were tangible, and also, for lack of a better word, sexy enough that you want to be a part of.
Yeah.
And you look at what's happened with the introduction of, women in digital, chicks who code, chicks in business, like-minded bitches drinking wine.
Oh, yes.
We've got CEO. There's so much attention and gravitas put on to support female founders. And I have a feeling that has played a massive part of it.
In terms of them stepping out into
in terms of, if you look at it from a community aspect, it's who's your tribe. And, that is very important to really understand who they are. And I think if we're now presenting so many different options and so many different avenues of support for women in business, I think that's phenomenal.
And what's interesting is as well, we've just seen Peter Ellis before, who was walking the floors. So she was the former CEO of River City Labs.
Yep.
And she has just mentioned, this isn't her first rodeo when it comes to a startup weekend.
God, no.
When it was a startup week, she said when they normally advertise, less than 20% of the people who turn up, out of the 100 people that turn up, are women. However, when they advertised it for females and really made it about females, and you're going to be supported with like-minded females, and that is how it was advertised, they've had 70 people,
70 plus or something,
turn up today.
It's
so it's like, like she said, where have they been? Because they're there, they're just not stepping into the limelight. And I think you're right. If there's more of this stuff that exists, and there's people with different opinions around it. I remember when I went to, I think I was going to a Women in Digital event, when I was back in recruitment, and one of my ex-colleagues said, shouldn't it just be everyone in digital? And I said, no, because there's not enough women. So it's forcing them to come out and be together. And, the person was a man, but I also had some feedback the same from another woman. And it was like, look, there's not enough of them there. So actually bringing them together to support each other, and it's a powerful thing.
And it's an inclusiveness. So like you touched on, Isaac, the tribes. So one of the key success and some of the recommendations that come out of these gazillion reports I read is about having strong women role models, which you touched on, like-minded bitches drinking wine. Love that. And it's also a level of inclusion and I guess a security blanket that, I'm not going to be shamed. I'm not going to be isolated, because sometimes women do take a little bit of the step back if they're in a room full of males who, and they'll allow them to speak first and hold back a little bit, or not give their ideas out free and willingly, because they need that kind of safe zone. So if those are the types of things, I can imagine why this would be successful, because it's targeted for women and creates that tribe culture.
Yeah, and they're going to come because they think, you know what, if I'm with other women who may also have kids and they've got to run out halfway through this day, well, I've got to run out halfway through this day,
I'm not going to feel bad.
Yeah, we're going to understand and it's going to be fine.
And I feel like it's almost a process like inclusivity isn't something that can just happen overnight. There is a process to it, and this is something that's, I'm a gay man, recently married. I struggle with it with thank you very much. I struggle with it with the LGBTIQ plus community too all the time. It's why do we need to have LGBTIQ plus programs in the workplace? Why do there need to be separate initiatives? Why does there need to be separate meetup groups for queer people and queer founders? And it's what I've noticed is, yes, I actually agree with what your colleague said. The end stage of inclusivity for me is, we are all together. And it is, we are finding our tribes based on interests, personality types, desires. We find it that way, but we're not there yet.
No.
And I think that we have come leaps and bounds in the way of saying, we do have programs to support female founders. We do have initiatives to support female founders. What I think the conversation and narrative needs to be is, great, well, how do we start bridging that gap?
Yes.
And I think that's, we've got to the point where there are some awesome initiatives, awesome programs, great work being done. If we want to get to the point where it's, why isn't it everyone digital? Great. That's not just going to magically appear. It has to be purposeful and it has to be deliberate.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that's what's really exciting to see. Well, what next? How are we going to continue to grow it? So we do end up, like, a perfect world for me. I'm not a woman, but I understand sometimes what it's like when you're just not around your people.
Yes.
And that would be the goal.
Yeah.
That would be the goal. But
where you're looking at people
there?
Based on personality traits and experiences versus the diversity on the superficial level.
Exactly.
But I think you both touched on a really important point. So when you're doing cultural transformation, and this again is from that multicultural report that came out from the Human Rights Commission of Australia around diversity, we are so far behind in Australia in regards to diversity and inclusion that it's actually a heart and mind transformation that needs to occur, which is around the human. I know you're an ambassador for humans and the evolution of humans, but the need for us to be a little bit more extreme and actually be bold and go, no, we're targeting women or we're targeting X group or that group is a necessary evil to restore the balance of powers. Because until you actually have everyone looking at the same thing, like you, myself and Laura, in regards to, I don't judge or look at you from the superficial, surface, and I look at you from your personality and your traits and what you bring to the table and your experience, we're not going to be there yet. So that's a bit of it, but it's exciting to hear what you're seeing in your exposure to startups and founders and what they're doing and what the women are bringing to the table.
Absolutely.
And just touching back on you, we didn't talk about your surname in the beginning. So Isaac Coonan, right?
Yes, that's my married name.
It's because we need to have people looking you up.
So going back to what you're doing at the moment,
yes,
right, and this investment side, which is obviously a different. And I don't think people kind of realize how complex a web this ecosystem is.
Yes.
And again, we're using the word ecosystem, which I feel gets thrown around all over the place, but it's the best way to describe it.
You just want to roll your eyes when you hear it, but it is the right word. It is the right word.
Yes. Yeah. It's very complex, right? So it's not just startup founders making a business and all kind of getting together. There's all of these feeder systems that need to come in, that need to support, and corporates need to be injecting cash, and investors need to be injecting capital, and there needs to be people, like your Mark Orchards and your Isaac Coonans who are facilitating those interactions. There's this whole web of things going on that actually build it. It's actually really interesting and very complex when you look behind the curtain of it.
Yeah.
And I think where you've been in that community and that tech space, very founder focused, and those corporate relationships, to now jump into the real investor side of the ecosystem, I guess looking at it from that side and that lens, why do you think that women only receive a very small portion of the global VC funding?
Look, I definitely don't want to talk with, any authority. I think there's enough people talking with authority that they probably don't have in the space.
Your experience of seeing what goes on in that side of the little web.
So, and again, I am definitely working. So I'm working for an incredible manager called Shirley Trung. I've worked with her at a couple different other places as well. She's definitely leading the way for reach here in Australia, Southeast Asia.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't answer that well, if that makes sense. I look at how she runs her investment fund. I look at the way she's going to be setting up the program. I look at, the investments she's made, and they are very inclusive, and not just when it comes to women, but queer people, people of different cultures, people of different race, religion. So my experience so far that world has been
amazing.
So I can't speak to it, but what I can speak to is there is a culture that exists where it is that what high school, what university, what rugby team did you play with, and it's dying. That culture is being challenged and it's pissing a lot of people off. And I love it. I love the fact that people are getting annoyed. It's like, oh, good, get annoyed.
Yeah.
But there is that, I definitely don't want to be the person to be like, oh, this, everyone's got a good heart, but I do think that there is a lot of unconscious biases that exist in the investment world, in the senior business world. I don't think that every VC who doesn't invest into women is a woman hater or doesn't like female-led initiatives. It's this unconscious, it's what they see. It's what they're exposed to, and it's not just the VC world. You see it time and time again when you look into how cultures are formed. You become familiar with what you see on a daily basis, and what you see on it, and what you're familiar with, you invest in, whether that's time, whether it's money, whether it's resources. And so I think the investment, so the money side of it, that is one conversation, but there's also the lack of investment from a human relationship side of it that is missing as well. We're not investing into female founders and female-led companies with money, but we're also not really investing time, resources, data, insights, not because I personally think these companies are misogynistic, just because it's not what they're familiar with.
No.
It's not what they know.
Do you know what and so interesting, right? So I got a real look into this. So I worked for a short time on behalf of an investor as well. And I went to, I won't say the name of the conference, but it was a conference. And for anyone that is listening to this, who was there, will know exactly what I'm talking about. It was in Brisbane in a lovely hotel. And I walked in and it was like, the world of corporate dinosaurs. Like I just wanted to throw myself back into that lift and come to a co-working space and work with normal people, because it was like, and look, I have worked in corporate for the last decade. I'm used to the old white guy in a suit. I'm used to that, right? Yeah. It's fine. But this was like where the dinosaurs came to die. And they, it was quite they all were very comfortable with each other. Yeah. I think there was myself and I saw Peter there, Peter Ellis, and I saw Faith Reese from Six Pivot, who I love. I'll shout out to Faith. And we were just like, wow, this is what's going on. This is what's going on. But what was interesting was there was opportunities for startups to pitch to this, and these were investors. Some of these investors were from Asia, from the US. This was a kind of real global room of people,
high profile, important.
Yes. So as a startup, if you were needing funding, this was a prime opportunity to get in there and do it.
Yeah.
I think I saw one female get up on that stage, and now I looked at that and thought, if I was a woman, well, I am a woman.
I was just about to say,
if I was a founder, probably a female founder, which I wasn't back then. Yes. And look, regardless, man or woman, it took a very certain type of human to get up in front of all of those people and to do that, right? To do that pitch in that room. It was very intimidating, that room. And I think from when it comes to investment and how I think it's actually not necessarily a conversation. It is about bias. I get that. And it is about confidence from a female. But there's also this in-between bit, which is how they interact.
Yes.
Because if the only way that an investor gets to see an entrepreneur or a founder, and the only way a founder gets to pitch is through something like that, then I can tell you right now, I wouldn't have been doing it with the best will in the world. And I've got a lot of confidence. I wouldn't have been able to get up there and do myself justice. And you know what? That wasn't about the best idea. That was a reflection of the most confident humans that could get up and do their thing, which for me, you got to say, yeah, it is part of the gig. I get it. It is part. You've got to be able to sell your story, and you've got to be able to have that confidence.
Yeah, but do you? Because I think that's back to we're measuring people by the same traditional not old, physically old, but traditional way of measuring people, which is, what university, what school, what rugby team did you play for?
Yeah.
Right? So is it really because why are we measuring people by the same standard? Look, if we look at we had a episode called The Assault Course, and we said what the assault course was, right? A bunch of people in the armed forces who are standing on the sideline and watching their cadets or whoever go through an assault course to basically flush out their weaknesses, right? And see who's the weakling amongst the group, I guess. Why is that an inviting and inclusive environment to be in? Why is that good?
No, I know. And I think your ability to pitch, I think is incredibly important. And I also think going through the actual pitch process, I think it's valuable in that you get to articulate what you do over and over again. You get to put yourself out the comfort zone. Even if you're just standing up pitching and there's no investors in a room, it is great practice.
Absolutely.
To be able to do it. But I do think that there are businesses that are women and men led that aren't making a huge load of noise, that probably don't have confident people to go and stand up there in that room to do that, but who have got cracking ideas and who can absolutely kill it in the business world. What are your thoughts on that?
I think there's two. I think when it comes to the pitch, we do need to, they do need to be loud. They do need to be outgoing. And that's not just female. That's, if you're going to be from an investment side, if you're going to be investing into a business, yes, it needs to be a really good idea, but you also need to make sure that there's a personality.
Yes.
That human who's leading that has the personality traits to really drive the growth of a startup. And that generally needs to be confidence, resilience, leadership, So it's quite, yes, you can have a cracking idea. If you don't have the right person leading it,
no, it won't work.
It won't work.
No.
And so I think why it's still important through our pitch events to really assess the personality and the emotional intelligence of the human leading it. I think that's super important from a success side of a business. And I think, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying before, at the moment, unfortunately, we do need focus-led groups. We do need focus-led groups to ensure, and this is, inclusivity and diversity is a very big passion point of mine. I just hit publish on an event down in Melbourne that I'm helping organize, and it's a conversation panel. It's it's deep diving into a certain topic, and then someone's just like, oh, so it's 3 guys. And I was like, oh shit, I didn't even think.
Yeah.
And so it's just one of those,
the unconscious.
It's the unconscious side of it, and I do think that is quite common, and why we need those focus groups is to be, what in an ideal world is if that where the dinosaurs go die event ever happens again, plug in a Women in Digital. Be like, all right, who do you have in your network? And I think if we're going to see change, I think it can't be something that's always done within. You need to plug in with those external groups to be like, all right, if you look at who comes to our events, it's a bunch of white guys. Let's fix it. Let's go out and collaborate with this
bring the group with you.
Let's bring this group with us.
Yeah.
But I think it's that knowledge, that awareness, though, to even think that I need to do that. And I think that is where the conversations need to keep having stuff like this, where we're if someone is listening to this and thinks, do you know what? Yeah, at my last event, I had 99 men and 1 woman, or I did the last 3 panels I've done were all men. It's just something like that. And I think that the change starts when every single person starts to do something small. And I went to the Great Hopper conference, the inaugural conference in Brisbane. It was an amazing achievement for Brisbane to have that here. And 700 women in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and maths, 700 women. It was incredible.
That's awesome.
The joke of the day was, oh my God, we're all having to queue up for the bathroom at a tech conference. It's unheard of. If you have a vagina, it's just unheard of. So it was awesome because, that is those industries and in particular technology, the statistics around how many females there are versus men is just an absolute joke, to be honest. But it really highlighted to me that a movement can begin when people do something for the tiniest little decision and the tiniest decision to have a conversation. And the something that really resonated with me, and I think with a lot of the women in that room, because I've seen a lot of initiatives come out the back of it, was think of something you can do at home to try and encourage your daughter, someone you know, have a conversation with your husband even about the woman that's in his team, about around inclusion or around upskilling women or something like that. Think of something you can do in your community. Is there an event you can run? Can you invite more people along to this? Can you click share on the bloody female startup weekend, you know? Like, can you do that for your online or offline community? And then what can you do in your business? Whether you are a business owner or whether you are, you know, if you're a receptionist, like what can you do? Like what, and just to take that responsibility.
Yes, the accountability, responsibility. You actually have just both given me a light bulb moment. So I'm in the tech industry, obviously, in my corporate life. And people always go, oh, well, you know, because I've had some good roles and I've had some good opportunities. And it's why, oh, how did you do that? Or what did you do to do that? Now, I don't know. I just did it because I had accountability for my own actions and responsibility. So I didn't think of it as a thing until most recently. And what you're saying is basically we need to have accountability for that statistic.
Yeah, we do.
And we need to actually be the ones pushing the dial, not look at what is not happening, but look at what we're doing. And you mentioned that, Isaac, earlier. You said something about the leaders that you've gotten, the female leaders that you're seeing through your programs and your exposure in your last role, and there's really no difference in the success when I asked you that.
No.
And that's because they're just doing it. Rather than polarizing it. So yes, we need the tribe, we need the support, we need the confidence, but basically you kind of need to
just do it.
Be like a man. That's how I did it. Sorry, by the way. So I would think, what would my male colleague do? Stop doubting myself, shut the F up and keep going. I was kind of of that mindset, but I never really associated that with the statistics that I've been reading.
Yeah, I think if you take accountability, we take our own accountability for the statistics.
Yeah.
And think about, okay, it might not be my fault, but what can I do to try and change it?
Yeah, stomp with your feet, vote with your feet.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you. That was anyway my own learning. Sorry, guys, to take over.
No, you're right. Like, I'm good. We can close the podcast.
I was just like, okay, now I feel better. Now let's go.
I enjoyed this, but I'm good.
My question to you would be, with this new accelerator fund and everything that you've been setting up, which obviously has been awesome and a big feat, you know, to kind of bring this over and have to build this all up from scratch across Australia. I know you've been traveling a lot. I know you've been doing a lot. And you did mention before we started the podcast, how many women have you had statistically apply?
So we only just closed applications last weekend. So we're kind of reviewing it all now, but it's looking to be at that 30% mark, which, you know, it is a lot better than, and I think it's also it's super important to also acknowledge when there are successes made. And so I do think, you know, this was a success. Yes, there are more female-led initiatives. Is it 50-50? No, but it's not 4%.
Yes, it's not.
We got somewhere. And we look at like a few of them that are actually, there's obviously it's all embargo still, so we can't talk about the companies, but you know, a couple of these Australian, New Zealand groups who have applied are led by female CEOs and they're just going guns blazing. Brilliant. Like they pretty much wipe the floor with their application process, which is what we want to see. And I think that's incredible.
So what would you, if you could we could wrap up with your piece of advice for, I want you to think of kind of female entrepreneurs. They might not necessarily be founders just yet, but they might be kind of thinking about it.
Or could they be like me, corporate world, have an idea
they could
and not
be
sure what to do?
Entrepreneurs.
Yes.
What piece of advice would you give them in terms of going into this, stepping into the ecosystem?
Yeah.
What advice would you give them?
Well, I'll definitely give that advice, but can I also just give a bit of advice to men just quickly?
Oh,
yes.
From that, go for it.
I just think it's also super important because, you know, yes, I totally agree with what you said around the accountability for that narrative as well. But I think if men are wanting to play a part in supporting it, get out of your comfort zone. Get out of what you know. And even if it's one event a month, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, if you go to Women in Digital, Chicks in Business, you can go to those events and you will be the only men in a room of 100 women. Go and experience it. Go and do it. Go and put yourself in a scenario that we're kind of saying or asking women to be accountable for and say, great, well, go put yourself in the environment, put yourself out there. I really challenge the guys who are listening, go find an opportunity where you will be a minority in the room and live in it for a bit and experience and get to understand it. I think that was the best thing in the whole wide world for me, was helping Holly with her events for Women in Digital. I got to be the only male in a room full of women twice a month. And it really did kind of open your eyes. So advice for guys, just give it a go. Try that.
I love that.
Get amongst it. And then I would say for female founders, females in the workplace, women who are wanting to increase visibility of women in the workforce, full stop. I think what's super important is to find your tribe where you can start to build up your confidence. You know, if you're one of those naturally confident people, sure, go in, you know, wave your flag, be seen, be heard. If that's not you, because you need to build up your confidence first, find a group, get confident, build up your self-belief, your self-confidence, your understanding of who you are and what you can bring to a workplace. But don't stay there. You know, use that as kind of like a charging station where you use that group, where that's where you go. That's where you get your energy. That's where you kind of get the support you need to then go into the workplace and be a beacon for other women, for your female colleagues, for the next generation of female thought leaders. But make sure you have that battery pack that you can keep plugging back into. Because I think what I've seen happen a lot is you get burnt out. If you're charging the way, if you're doing this by yourself, you just eventually the size, the eye rolls, and not getting invited to certain meetings
or not being listened to
pisses you off. And then you're just like, well, you know, fuck it.
Give it up.
But you know, that's how we met. You know, like we didn't meet in that context.
No.
We met in another context, but we kind of very quickly got onto the subject of, we had similar barriers and issues that we were going through, and we just became this real we just bounce ideas off each other. And you know, if I'm having a really rubbish time, it would be, and it wouldn't even necessarily be about advice, it would just be shared. You got this, you've got this, and I've got this, and then you know, suddenly we're doing
and
a podcast.
It's not us, it's everywhere.
I know, but it's been so powerful. And we just actually talked about this earlier on, about how powerful this podcast has been. I never look at how many listeners we have. To be honest, like I don't care. Like if this helps one person and there's one listener, great. And that's all that matters to me. But for me personally, this has been like therapy.
Yeah.
I have uncovered.
Save the bill.
Yes. I have uncovered so
podcast.
many things and opened up my eyes to things.
Agree.
And we've been supporting each other, and it's led to, you know, we were on a panel together last week with Coder Academy around changing the statistics and women in diversity. And it was just, I don't know. I
that
think
was our battery charge, and
we're
I love
each
that.
other's battery charges.
I've never heard of that analogy. Like, you've just given me so many different perspectives. I can't thank you enough, because you've just explained to me, you know, well, we've all echoed the confidence. We like the confidence part, and finding your tribe to build that confidence as your battery recharge. Yeah. That's amazing, and it's so simple.
Yeah. Because I think it's something that this isn't new. Like, yes, you know, we're focused on, for this podcast in particular right now, it's female inclusion and female diversity and female startups. But it's something that's just, at the end of the day, we are just humans, and we all process and develop the same way. You know, it's how are you recharging yourself to build that confidence to kind of go out and be a part of what you're wanting to change. And I think that's just, you know, I don't even remember where I read the battery pack analogy, but that was like, for me, the second I heard that, it's always just clicked. It's like, okay,
that makes sense. See,
I need to figure out where am I recharging? So when it's
so hard,
when it's just like, you know, you refer to as the gay boy in the office. Well, yeah, that's shit. So where am I charging back up so I can keep going and tackling that and have that accountability that if I want to see that statistic change, I've got to actively do it. It's just you need that.
I love that. So we need to be a little bit more bolder. We need to take accountability for statistic. However, we need to actually find a space where we can recharge, create a tribe, have a tribe, and then actually act on the change when we take it out.
Yep.
Amazing.
I
Thank
love
you so
that.
much,
Thanks so
Isaac,
much for your
joining
time.
us.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to another Splash of Colour. Tune into our next episode and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube, Spotify or iTunes channels. Or you can check us out on LinkedIn, Facebook and Instagram.